August 1945. The world changed forever. In a flash of blinding light, the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were erased from the map. It wasn't just buildings that turned to dust, it was the hope of a nation. Imagine standing in the middle of Tokyo, a city that was once vibrant, now a skeleton of charred wood and twisted metal. Over 60 of Japan's largest cities were burned to the ground by firebombing. Millions were homeless, and the smell of smoke hung in the air for months. Japan was a broken nation. It had no oil, no minerals, and barely enough food to keep its people alive. International experts at the time predicted that Japan would remain a third-world farming country for the next century. The emperor, once considered a living god, had surrendered. The Japanese people were faced with a choice: disappear into the history books as a failed empire, or do the impossible. This is where our story begins, not with wealth, but with a collective decision to survive. The 0 hour had arrived, and from the black ashes of 1945, a new spirit began to stir. How do you rebuild a country with zero resources? You use the only resource you have, the human mind. The Japanese leadership realized that they couldn't compete with America's vast lands or Russia's oil. They had to compete with quality. This led to the birth of Kaizen. While the West focused on mass production, Japan focused on continuous improvement. Kaizen isn't just a business strategy, it's a way of life. It's the obsession with making every tiny detail 1% better every single day. But there was another secret weapon: the Japanese education system. Even while their schools were in ruins, teachers taught children that their duty was to rebuild the nation. Discipline became the national religion. Students didn't just learn math, they learned gamen, the art of enduring the unbearable with patience and dignity. This created a workforce that was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Workers didn't just go to factories for a paycheck. They went to win a silent war of economic survival. They traded their swords for slide rules and their armor for business suits. The samurai spirit had found a new battlefield: the global market. Let's talk about the legends. In 1946, a man named Masaru Ibuka and a physicist named Akio Morita started a small electronics shop in a bombed-out department store in Tokyo. They had only 190,000 yen and 20 employees. That tiny shop became Sony. They didn't just build radios, they miniaturized them, creating the world's first pocket-sized transistor radio. They proved that small is powerful. Then there was Soichiro Honda. He started by attaching small surplus engines to bicycles because people had no fuel for cars. He was told he would fail, but he worked 18 hours a day in his garage. Today, Honda is a global titan. And we cannot forget Toyota. In the 1950s, Toyota's production was tiny compared to Ford or GM. But they developed the Toyota production system, a method so efficient that today, every major factory in the world tries to copy it. By the 1970s, the world was shocked. Japanese cars weren't just cheaper, they were better. They were more reliable. Suddenly, the Made in Japan label, which used to mean cheap junk, became the gold standard of the world. The world was no longer laughing, they were scrambling to keep up. By the 1980s, Japan's rise reached a level of madness. Tokyo's real estate became so expensive that the land under the Emperor's Palace was worth more than the entire state of California. Japan was buying up American icons, Rockefeller Center, Columbia Pictures, and famous golf courses. This was the era of Japan as number one. The world looked at Tokyo's neon lights and high-speed bullet trains and thought the future had already arrived. The Shinkansen or bullet train became the symbol of this new era. It moved at speeds that seemed like science fiction, and it was never late, not even by a second. Japan was leading in robotics, semiconductor chips, and gaming. Nintendo and Sega took over every child's bedroom across the globe. This era showed the world that Japan wasn't just catching up, they were setting the pace. However, this success came at a price. A culture of karoshi or overwork, showing that even the greatest miracles have a dark side. Japan's story isn't just about money, it's about bouncing back from tragedy. Even after the economic bubble burst in the 90s, and even after the devastating 2011 earthquake and tsunami, Japan did not fold. When the tsunami hit, the world watched in horror as entire towns were swept away. But what happened next? There was no looting. There was no chaos. People stood in long, orderly lines for water. Neighbors helped neighbors. This resilience is the true mythic terrain of the Japanese soul. They rebuilt their infrastructure in record time. They pivoted their economy toward green energy, advanced AI, and healthcare for an aging population. Today, Japan remains the third largest economy in the world despite having almost no natural resources. They proved that a nation is built on the character of its people, not the contents of its soil. From the rubble of Hiroshima to the robots of Tokyo, Japan's journey is a message to every struggling nation. Your past does not define your future. Japan's journey from the ashes of 1945 to the neon lights of 2026 is more than just a history lesson. It teaches us that no matter how deep the hole we fall into, we can climb out if we have a vision and a spirit that refuses to break. The Japanese miracle is a message of hope. Your current situation is not your final destination. As we look at the skyscrapers of Tokyo, let's remember the millions of people who worked 18-hour days to build this reality from nothing. They didn't just build a country, they built a legacy that continues to inspire the entire world. If you found this story of resilience inspiring, don't forget to support the channel. Hit the like button and subscribe to Mythic Terrain to join our community of explorers. We dive deep into the world's greatest mysteries and the stories that shaped our planet. What part of Japan's rise surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Thank you for watching until the very end. Your support keeps us going. Until our next adventure, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.